My name is Emily Minky-Dick. I'm an education specialist here at ROI, and I want to welcome you this morning. Happy Computer Science Education Week. We're so glad you all have joined us today. Short breakdown of what we're going to do today. I'm going to talk just a little bit about the Uplands and kind of why we're here for Computer Science Education Week. And then I'm going to introduce the people that you really came to hear from today, which are our panelists, to tell more about their careers in computer science here in the Indiana Uplands. Once we get our chat figured out, if you could just put who you are, where you're from, and then you should be able to ask some questions if you'd like in that throughout the webinar. So I am going to share my screen here, and then we'll get started. So good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here for Computer Science Careers in the Indiana Uplands. If you aren't familiar, maybe if you're a student or kind of someone new to this work, this is a map of the Indiana Uplands. If you're joining today, you're likely live in one of these 11 counties. And the unique thing really about our region is that if you live in one of these 11 counties, the opportunity and the industry near where you live is growing rapidly. So we're excited to highlight some of those opportunities today. This is a slide that really depicts the rising opportunity across our region. And if you think about these 11 counties, 48 cities and towns, this is a lot of opportunity and a lot of money that companies are investing here. And so as we think about computer science education and students, as you consider what you want to explore and what you want to go into, we hope that slides like this one that show you the thousands of patents being issued to Cook Medical, a small medical device manufacturer, or the fact that the third largest naval installation in the world is right here in your backyard, or that General Motors is really investing a lot of money into scaling up parts for electric vehicles right here in the Indiana Uplands. We hope that you find that exciting. And if computer science is something that you're into or thinking about, we want to let you know that if you decide to pursue those things, the opportunities really are endless here for you. Just one slide before I introduce our panelists. If you think about career clusters, it's trying to go right to our panelists. Think about career clusters. This is information and communications technology, national security and defense, biomedical sciences. Huge shares of those jobs available are in STEM jobs. So think technology, engineering, math, science. So there's great opportunity. So as we launch Computer Science Education Week, we want to encourage you to think about these jobs. And I know a lot of you will be exploring them with your teachers this week, and we're pretty excited about that. On to our presenters for today. The reason that you're here. I'm excited to introduce this group of panelists. It's just going to keep popping me forward. Today, moderating our panel is Stephanie Zircher. Stephanie is the Vice President of Programs for Nextech. Students, teachers, if you're not familiar with Nextech, look them up. They're a valued partner and doing a lot of work to bring computer science education to you all. Also with us, Brittany Stout. Brittany is a quality assurance analyst at Vector Solutions. She's going to tell you more about what that means here in a minute. Matt Dieter is a corporate engineer at Jasper Engines and Transmissions in Jasper. And then Scott Schroeder is the Chief Technology Officer at RTC Communications. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to kick it over to Stephanie.
Well, perfect. Hey, everybody. It is an absolute pleasure to get a chance to be with you all today. Thanks for coming. As Emily said, We are here together to kick off Computer Science Education Week. And since the chat is working, I'm going to give you a little quiz, if you will. So Computer Science Education Week is a national week where the whole world gets together to talk about why computer science is so awesome. But it's this week for one reason, and it's because of a woman named Admiral Grace Hopper. She was one of the very first computer scientists. She invented two things, and I'm curious if anyone knows what they were. The first one is the compiler. The second thing was something that you probably know a lot about, that you experience a lot when you're coding. I know our panelist Brittany experiences this computer science thing very often. Does anyone know what it is in the chat? So what did Grace Hopper invent? Anyone? Well, I'll tell you. Oh, we got it. Grace Hopper invented the bug. So anytime you say the word bug, know that it's because Admiral Grace Hopper invented it as one of the very first computer scientists. And she actually invented it because she found a real moth in her computer back in the 1940s, and it stuck. So we are so happy to be here today celebrating as a team. I'd love for my panelists to come on screen if they're not already. Oh, there we go. Well, here we are. So let's go ahead and get started. The first question we're gonna ask today is to tell us a little bit more about who you are. So let's go ahead and Matt, let me start with you. Tell us about your company and your current position.
All right, hello, I'm Matt Dieter. I have a background in mechanical engineering. I have a bachelor's degree from Purdue University. I know the big rival of the Uplands. But after that, I worked for the diesel manufacturer Cummins for 2 years, and then decided I wanted to return to Southern Indiana. I really liked interviewing with Jasper, and I liked seeing the down-home nature of Jasper, and the fact that you get to be hands-on, which as an engineer is a rare thing. And in my role, I get to not only program and do the computer science part, but I also get to do mechanical design, hydraulic design, fabrication, programming, debugging, and roll out all the way out to the end consumer, which is our in-house users of test equipment, things that validate components that we get in from core engines and transmissions to make sure they're good before we use them again and save money and value for our customers.
Awesome. Well, I already have things that I'm excited to talk to you more about today. What about you? Go ahead, Brittany. Tell us a little bit more about your company and your current position.
Hi, I'm Brittany Stout. I'm sorry I'm getting over a cold, so my voice might go in and out a little bit. But I am a quality assurance analyst for a software company called Vector Solutions. We make training and testing software for all of the first responders everywhere. Their training academies and et cetera use our training software to make sure that everyone has the right certifications. They're all trained and ready to go as first responders. My job as quality assurance is I get to find all the little bugs everywhere in the code and then send it back to the devs and say, hey, you broke this. It's really is a lot of fun, I promise.
Perfect. And Scott, what about you?
Hi, Scott Schroeder. I'm with RTC Communications. We started in 1949 as a telephone company. Back then, that was all the technology we could provide. And then over the last several years, we've migrated to an internet provider. So we create the ability to access the internet, and we do it through mostly fiber optic cables. So we do fiber to the home, and we offer some of the fastest speeds in the state. Right here in Davies, Martin, and Lawrence counties, when we offer 1 gig services. So that's some of the fastest speeds you can get, not only in the state, but in the world. And then we're soon to possibly open up some faster speeds than that. So we do everything from software design to networking to engineering of cable in the ground for fiber optics. And that's all underneath my organization.
Wow. So Scott, since you have the mic, will you go ahead and tell me a little bit more about the training and experiences that got you where you are today? So what's been your journey to get to your current position?
Sure. This started as a hobby. When I was younger, introduced computers to school and the technology into my home, and Just started to use it as a hobby. And then as I went through life, I started going to school for it, learning mostly about programming. And then I ended up getting a job and doing some IT work for some small companies with accounting software. And then somehow ended up in the telecommunications field and did night school to finish my degree. And I have a degree in management information systems from Indiana Tech up in Fort Wayne. And that's what kind of got me here. It all really just started with a hobby, and fell in love with it, and really enjoy the technology and the problem solving of it all.
So Scott, it sounds like you potentially started in this IT computer science field before you had a 4-year degree. Is
Yes, I did.
that you, and will you talk more, were there certain certifications that you did, or kind of how were you able to successfully do that?
That was a little more luck of the draw. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, I suppose. Back when I first started in IT, I had a company that I worked for that knew I had a little bit of college, and we had the first computer in that office, and no one knew how to use it. So they challenged me with figuring out how they could use the computer, and how they could use it to benefit the company. And so my job for quite a while was setting up a computer system for the first time in a company, and that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot from that. So
Awesome. Sounds like the adage, love what you do, you won't work a day. Certainly
That's
holds
right.
true for you, Scott.
That's right.
What about you, Brittany? Tell me a little bit more about what your training and experiences were that got you to be right here on this webinar today.
All right. So I have a degree in applied mathematics and a minor in computer science from the University of Evansville. I've always liked math. Math is something that's always just come easy to me. It just makes sense. So I just decided to pursue that in college. When you graduate from college with a math degree, not many people know what you can do with a math degree. But the answer is you can do pretty much anything, because you're shown, it means you're logical. You can problem solve. And so when I graduated college, I started working at NSWC Crane as a scientist in the reliability engineering group, which was fun for a while. And then I transferred over to a company called Envisage Technologies, where I learned quality assurance. And quality assurance is like my jam. It's my favorite thing to do. So I'm so glad that I stumbled into it and found it. But it's very I don't use numbers. I don't use that kind of math, but I use the logical problem solving mindset that is required in math in order to do my job well. I have to think about all the edge cases. So what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And that is pretty much, I mean, it's math. It's math, it's logic. And I also had a minor in computer science in college. I'll probably say it later, but I wish I had gotten into computer science earlier, because I think it would have been easier if I was younger, had I been introduced to it younger. But I took my first computer science class in my sophomore year of college. And so I was kind of late to change majors or get a double major at that point. But I've always loved computer science too, because it's the same vein of logic, reason, rationality. And yeah, it's the best.
Perfect. What about you, Matt? How did you get where you are today?
As I mentioned before, I had a 4-year from Purdue, and while I was there, I'd always been really interested in being hands-on and tinkering and doing the mechanical side, but I had the good fortune of being in the advanced engineering program while I was there. And as part of the advanced engineering program, they put you a lot more in contact with programming. Purdue's really trying to push engineers to be well-rounded, including more communication stuff and more computer science. Even if you're in a degree that's not traditionally very computery, mechanical engineering, you're thinking nuts and bolts and hardware, but there's more and more and more coding every day within mechanical engineering. And I enjoyed it while I was there. And even though my role after I left didn't have very much in it, I was very lucky that at Jasper, they let you chase what you enjoy. So I came here and I started doing some mechanical design. And they're like, well, what do you think about programming? I was like, oh, I really like programming. They said, well, normally this guy handles the programming for the equipment that you guys would build, but you're welcome to take a shot at it. So right away on my first project, I sat down with the Here we go. Yep. So this is actually an image of my first project here up in the upper right. So that tests the little brown thing here, kind of in the middle. That is a transmission control module out of a GM 6-speed rear-wheel drive. I know it sounds like a lot of jargon, but you think of your Silverados, your Sierras, your GM 1500 and 2500 trucks. That's what those are in. And those are in that transmission that we have to rebuild. So we get a broken one in from a customer. We've got to pull it apart, make sure all the parts are good before we can reuse them or replace them. Well, that is a $500 piece. If we can make sure it's still good, we're going to save the customer money. We're going to save us money. So I built the machine in the upper right, and then I got to program it as well. I like to say that in our group, it's the full engineering process. You give a problem statement, you got to do design, programming, the whole 9 yards. And that's what I've gotten to do being here, is to learn all of those things. And I came into it with an understanding of hydraulics and mechanics, but I've gotten to learn a whole lot more about coding and electrical stuff, which I had very little knowledge of and just a little bit of experience in college. But here I've gotten to grow a lot within Jasper.
Awesome. I feel like we keep going around this question. I'd love to maybe start with you this time, Brittany. Tell me a little bit more about what makes your job exciting. Why are you exuberantly excited about quality assurance and QA as a career path for you, and also a career path for these students on the call?
So my job is like the most fun. Oh, yay, they got my slide. So this is like my job. My job is like one of these games where you like find the differences between both pictures. So I have a set of design notes and standards on one side, and then I have what is actually there in the web browser. So then I go through the process and see, okay, does it match visually? What does the user experience feel like? Is there any way that I can cause it to break? Like, that's my favorite thing, whenever I can just cause something to just system error, because it's just fun. And you take it back to the dev and they're like, wait, what? My code does what? But anyway, when I find something that doesn't work quite right, I can do my best to try to figure out what did I do to cause that issue, so that I can hand it back to the dev and say, okay, I could get it this far. There's some problem between point A and point B. Can you look into the code and figure out where the bug is? And I like, my favorite part of my job is that it's new every day. I've got a new problem. I've got a new thing to look at. And it's always a challenge. It's always, it does feel like a game to me, and I like to win. So, I don't know, QA is just really, really fun.
I feel like what I'm hearing is, for all you kids out there that maybe like video games, QA could certainly be a career path where you could think about taking those video game skills, those esports skills to your future career. What about you, Scott? Tell me what makes your job exciting day to day. Why is what you do so fun?
Well, kind of like when I mentioned that I had a company where we had installed a computer for the first time, something's always changing. There's always something new. There's always a new technology. There's always a new way to do things. And that's what keeps the job interesting. And you never really can predict what that new thing is. But once you're in the field, you can expand out or decide to stay in your current path. And so that's part of it. One thing that I get to do here, I get to help decide where we build next. If we overbuild another city and put fiber to the home for customers, I get to help do the math and make sure we get a good return on our investment, make sure the financials all work out okay, and kind of estimate how many customers we think we're going to bring in, so we know on what that is. And then behind the scenes, we set up the network to accommodate the customers by buying pools of IP addresses so that people can have a IP address to get on the network, or just how we get back to the main internet core and meet all the other companies so that we have connectivity throughout the nation and the world for all our customers.
Tell me, Scott, while I have you, tell me a little bit more about if a student is interested in kind of pursuing a career path like yours. What certifications should they go after? What skills should they go after? Are there certain classes they should think about taking in high school to really help them prepare for their future?
To get into broadband or telecommunications, I would get into something like one of the most popular certifications is a CCNA from Cisco. That's one of the most popular ones for networking that can get you into telecommunications. The other one is civil engineering. If you want to get into the engineering side of it and learn how to put cable in the ground, or use the telephone poles or power poles to run aerial lines, that would be another good way to go and get into the telecom world. But then we do a lot of cybersecurity and programming here as well. And cybersecurity is probably the big hot one of the year. We have a lot of requirements just to maintain insurance on our network to make sure we have good cybersecurity systems put in place.
Awesome. Are there any particular classes you think they should take in high school? Anything that you think kind of gets their brains ready?
In high school, I'm going to agree with Brittany on this. It's going to be math. When I was in high school, I didn't know what I was going to use math for, but math is the catalyst for a whole lot of things that helps you think logically and go from there. And if there's any kind of computer programming or introduction to computer programming, I would advise getting in those as well. Those will be super helpful.
Thanks, Scott. What about you, Matt? What kind of interests or skills would prepare your students for a job like yours?
Like they said, math, science classes, but I'm gonna deviate a little bit, and I'm gonna say, while those classes are very important, the things that to me shape the best engineers and the best computer sciences are the practicals. So take a electronics class where you're building circuits, take a automotive class where you're actually working on the cars that you might be designing something for. Being able to see the end use case for a lot of that kind of stuff, even just the user interfaces that you might have to interface with in a car as you work on it, can really help shape your standing and give you that practical edge to know, hey, yeah, this might work in theory, but here's a really good application that's just a little bit different than that, that's gonna get us to the goalpost better.
Perfect. So I have a question for all of you before I ask Brittany the same question. What if I'm not good at math? So what about math? Do I have to be an expert mathematician? Or what if I don't feel like I'm great at math? Because all of you on this phone call are great at math. What if I don't feel like I'm great at it, or I don't love it? Do I have to love math in order to pursue a degree in technology? Anyone can take this one.
Definitely not. You do not have to love math. Now, I love math because it's awesome. But if you don't love math, I would encourage you to try to look at it differently. Try to not focus too much on like the numbers and focus more on, okay, why am I choosing to do this? What path am I following? Think of it more in like the logic space than just the pure math. And I honestly also think that like math, if you get frustrated with math in one particular class, just move on to the next class. You might have a different teacher. You might don't bring that negative attitude of I hate math to every class that you start with math, because math can be exciting and different in each different like vein of it. And if you're just hard-headed and think I hate math, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun, but it can be fun. And there were some math classes that I didn't really enjoy that much, even though I love math, but thinking of it in different aspects and trying to think of the broader picture of this is teaching me logic, this is teaching me reason, and trying to think of it in that way will definitely help. And no, you don't have to be good at math to be in any sort of tech field, I promise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
agree. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, thank you. Just to back that up too, one thing that you're probably not going to hear a lot about as you start to look at colleges is that there's not just mechanical engineering or electrical engineering. There's mechanical engineering technologies. There's electrical engineering technologies. And while it may sound like, what's the difference? The difference is as a mechanical engineering student, I learned all the really high level math. Like it was, all right, hey, you're going to be doing calculus 2 and 3, and you're going to be doing all the really complicated down to the 40th decimal spot math to figure out the theory. Scott, the camera loves you. I don't know. But the technology side, they just go, hey, here's the equation that's really going to get you the result that you need. Don't worry about the 100th decimal spot. So long as you get one, you're going to be close enough. It's going to be practical and applicable. And there's a couple of guys that do the same work I do, and they've just got engineering technology degrees, and we sit next to each other, we do the same work, and we get to have the same experience.
Perfect. All right, Brittany, tell me what interest, if somebody wants to get into QA, what interests or skills do they need to take to get to where you are today? Are there certain certifications or stuff they should do in high school if they want to make this their job?
So I wouldn't say there's like, I don't have any certifications. I just kind of fell into the job and loved it and was really good at it. But I would say pretty much what the other guy said, that math is a big thing just because it teaches you logic. I would have loved to have had computer science classes earlier in my life. Besides like keyboarding and stuff, which is totally random. And like, I don't know, I just feel like you learn that just by happenstance now, but like any sort of computer science, any sort of tech classes that you can take earlier, the better, because I feel like the earlier you are when you try to learn it, the more chances you have at actually learning it. Because you may not learn it the first time, you may not jive with the teacher or whatever, but the second time you hear it, oh, that totally makes sense now. So I would just keep giving it a try again and again if you're very interested in it.
Awesome. All right, Scott. So a question for you. I would love to hear about a project or something that you're particularly proud of. And I got a hint that you have some cool stuff to tell us about GPS and mapping with telecommunications. Is there something you can share with us about that, Scott, that you're excited about?
Yeah, so that is one piece of our group that I failed to mention. We have a geospatial engineer that she joined the Army and got a lot of background in GPS technology and GIS technology. And we use that technology to plot addresses to see how we should build out our network. So one of our big accomplishments here just in the past year is finding ways to automate. I now have mapping systems that can tell me which houses actively have service and which ones don't, so that if somebody were to cut our fiber optic lines, I can instantly tell who's out of service, so I can notify them. And that was a big program that we put into place just this past year, and it's working really well. And it's very neat to see exactly the clusters of people that take our service and buy our services from us, and the areas that don't. Helps our marketing department, helps problem solving when we have outages and everything. So that's a big one as well that we've done.
That's neat. I think that sometimes, at least I certainly forget, when I'm on the internet and I'm looking for fiber service and I put in my address, to me, I'm just putting my address in a box. But what happens behind the scenes is all of this stuff that makes sure that you can figure out how to actually get it to my house.
Yep, exactly.
So tell me why I have you, Scott. Tell me, and I feel like we've heard this whole conversation between, I've heard cybersecurity and engineering and DevOps and software engineering, but tell me what are some areas of computer science that are represented in your company? Certainly we focused on the IT side and probably networking, and cybersecurity, but are there other areas that are represented at RTC?
Those are really, in my company, we get almost all aspects because we are the provider of networking services. We have a developer on site that makes some of our programs. We have a GIS specialist that does our mapping.
Wait, what's a GIS? Oh, that's the map.
That's the mapping. All she does, if you've ever, gone to Google Earth, she has background programs that, almost develop what happens behind the scenes on Google Earth type programs. We do have a cybersecurity team. We have programmers. We have network engineers that set up, how the servers talk to each other. And then we also have engineers that set up, the way the internet works is we get a connection all the way to a data center, and then we have to start communicating with all the other companies that are inside that same data center so that we have fluent internet, so you can talk to any customer regardless of who their provider is, and that's how the internet works. So it's a lot of networking, and we just really cover almost all facets of technology in a telecom company.
Perfect. So a similar question, Matt. So tell me, what I'm sure based on even the initial picture you showed us of the engine part, I believe. Tell me what if I'm not into that? What jobs do I have at your organization that maybe are related to computer science or technology, but aren't necessarily the jobs that we've talked about?
Yep. So within our group, it's pretty much just programming. But then if you jump across the wall over into IT, we've got people writing internal programs for parts ordering. There's network security, network engineering. There's help desk people to help, anybody and everybody with their computers. And all those roles are represented within our IT group as well.
Perfect. So then, Brittany, a question for you. I feel that Scott, and it definitely looks like Matt's in an office because I see people walking behind him sometimes. And then it looks like maybe Scott's in an office because it just looks officey. But Brittany, it does not look like you are in an office. Where do you work from?
I work from my house. It's awesome. I am in my living room. I have my giant TV over there to have stuff on in the background, and I have my 4 dogs laying here on the couch beside me.
Do you always work from home?
Yes. So like I used to work in an office. We have a hybrid, we have a Bloomington office, so I can go work in the office if I want to. But since 2020-ish, 2019, 2020, I've been working remotely. We do a lot of Zoom meetings, Teams meetings like that. So I still get to interact with people, but I get to do it all from home in my sweatpants with my dogs.
I'm working from home today too. And I don't know, I feel like I need to tell you all that I have my pajama pants on. Okay. So now you all know that is what is happening over in my working from home today. So Scott, Matt, tell me something cool in your office that people don't know is there. Do you have great snacks? Or maybe you have an amazing fountain drink machine, or something fun that you can do when you let steam off? Is there something fun in your office that these students in the Uplands region need to know about? Either of you?
Well,
I'll let you go first, Scott, since I took this thunder last time.
For me, the fun thing we have here is we have a small data center inside of our building that nobody really knows about. So we have a bunch of different companies with fiber optic cables that come into our building, and we all meet in this location, and then we can share transport networks back and forth. And what my engineers like to do is take LED lights and put colors around all the cabinets and light it up so that it looks really awesome in the dark when all the lights are off. So you see all the network lights. If you have a modem at home, you always see the green blinky light. We amplify that, and we make it pretty neat with all the different colors and LED lights that we like to put in there.
I feel like we could create a really cool video gaming lounge if we got Brittany to do her QA work in your data center and gave her a great chair. I mean, it could be epic.
Yep.
What about you, Matt? What's awesome at your organization?
So we do have a fountain drink machine. We do have snacks every morning. We get fruit every morning at 9 o'clock. On Wednesdays, it's like salty snacks or, candy bars type stuff. About once a year, each individual group will get to go to our go-kart track, and so get to spend a night out there, having catered food in and driving go-karts around a go-kart track. At Christmas time, they bring in a bunch of catered meals. We get to do a bunch of potlucks, that kind of stuff. And we do have a little bit of a hybrid model. When I'm doing a whole bunch of coding and I'm not working on the mechanical stuff, I do have the opportunities to work from home and work remotely.
Perfect. That's what I really mean this, kids, students across the region. Tech jobs and computer science jobs, they are great often for work-life balance, and they always have cool stuff. So from snacks to fun lights to hangout spots to great events, team events. If that is something that excites you, you should definitely think about pursuing a career in computer science. So we are almost to the end of our time. So I wanted to end and make sure to say, maybe I'll start with you, Brittany. What advice would you have? So if you had to give advice to these middle school and high school students, what advice would you give them to these students that are thinking about maybe pursuing a career here?
The advice I would give is, like I've already said, start early. And even if, that first class just doesn't jive with you, but you're still kind of interested, keep going, keep trying, keep learning. Just soak up as much as you can, because, and even classes that you're not really that big of a fan of, focus on learning how to learn, because that is how you get better. You learn how to learn in classes that you don't like. You learn how to learn in classes that you love. And so I would just say, as many classes, as many opportunities as you can to learn about math or computer science, programming, any type of that. Definitely just take them. If you know people in your life that have those kinds of jobs, ask if you can go with them to work one day and just see what it's like. Because I feel like that gives you a better picture than anything else. Because if someone could sit next to me and I could show you what I do all day, it would sound better than, me just talking about it for a second. But my advice would be try early and keep persevering. And yeah, you'll be set. It's a lot of fun. There's lots of opportunities. And even if, like we said, programming, wasn't your go-to, there's plenty of options that are very close to that. Like QA is very close to that, but it's not programming. I dip my toe in programming, but I don't have to be full on a programmer. So there's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, Brittany, I'll agree with that and support that 100%. That get into the one piece that you like the most and make it a hobby, because once you know one part of technology, the rest of it will come easy. If you can learn one section of technology, everything else will come easy. But if you try to learn it all, it's overwhelming, because there's a lot with cybersecurity and programming and quality assurance and engineering. But for me, early on, I had a game that I liked to play, and my parents wouldn't buy it for me, and so I had a computer, and I went home and I wrote the game similar to this, so I could play it myself. And that was always something neat that I did, is that creativity is it's problem solving and thinking, but there's a lot of creativity in the computer science world. It's a very creative, artistic thing to do. No two programmers will ever do things exactly the same, but you might have similar outcomes, but it's fully creative model. So it really is an art.
And jumping off what Scott said, I would highly recommend 3 things to get into computer science and electronics as a hobby. The first, really low barrier to entry, go find an Arduino. They're like $20. You can get a whole bunch of sensors and chips, and there's all kinds of examples and walkthroughs online. From there, get yourself a Raspberry Pi. No, not the food, the microcomputer. It'll teach you networking. You can do all kinds of coding on it. It's like a $50 personal computer. You put a keyboard, mouse, and a monitor to it, and you're doing all kinds of cool and crazy stuff, and you're going to learn incrementally as you mess with it. And third, pick up a cheap 3D printer. It's going to give you a good understanding of mechanical, good understanding of troubleshooting. You're going to have to be doing some coding and interfacing with it there, some networking. And between those 3 things, you're going to have a great foundation for anything computer science.
Susan asked us, what were those first 2 things again? I can tell you. They were get an Arduino and then get a Raspberry Pi, and Raspberry Pi is how it's spelled, and then an inexpensive 3D printer. I when I started this session today moderating, I started writing down some of the words of wisdom, the nuggets of information that you all shared. And as a way to follow up, I would just like to list off some of the things that I learned, and hopefully you learn the same things. So we learned that you want to try things early. You want to just try it, see what happens. Scott reminded us to get excited about the one thing that you really love, and make it a hobby. Just really lean all into something. We've really spent a lot of time saying, be willing to learn, be willing to try things, be willing to just experience something. I love at the very beginning, I believe that Matt said, chase what you enjoy. If you really like something, chase it and make it happen. We can certainly see every time Brittany spoke that she really has a job that she loves. And she reminded us over and over again, find a job that you love and find a job that you want to do. And then I think collectively, this whole group reminded us today that you really want to focus on learn how to learn. And Brittany said that at the end, but even when maybe a subject isn't your favorite, or a topic isn't exciting you, or a lesson's not fun, even if you're just getting through it, know that ultimately what you're doing is learning how to learn, so that when you graduate high school and maybe you graduate college, you're able to really make a difference in Indiana and in the Uplands region, because there's so many amazing careers in computer science and technology that are here for you. So we're so glad that you spent this time with us today. I'm going to hand it back over to Emily.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Wow. Guys, if you weren't excited about Computer Science Education Week, or just exploring anything having to do with computer science, I really hope you are now. We can't thank our panelists and Stephanie enough for taking time this morning, early on this Monday morning, to spend some time with us and share. Students, teachers, if you all are interested in connecting careers to what you're doing right now, we have, ROI does have some resources on our website, regionalopportunityinc.org. You can click the careers in the Uplands tab at the top. That should take you to some fun resources. And as always, if you have suggestions for additions to that page, please let us know. And if you are looking for computer science training opportunities, please check out nextech.org as well. Stephanie's organization just provides a ton of support, direct support for students and teachers. So with that, happy Computer Science Education Week. Hope you guys have a fun time exploring. Bye.